Why take a stand? Why get involved in the conservative movement and take the time to do that? Today we're hearing one woman's story, but we're also taking a look back at session, looking forward into special session. It's time to spill some sweet tea. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sweet Tea series. My name is Ariana Guajardo. I'm here today with the Vice Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. This is the first time you've been in the TPPF office, right?
Yes, it is. I've been a fan of TPPF for a very long time. And in fact, whenever I was a president of a club, I had many of the speakers, Chuck Devereaux,
DeVore, yes.
DeVore,
He's wonderful.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And I've had a few, and they were always spectacular and very informative.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they've been able to, I guess, share some of their their years of wisdom and research and stuff like that with you guys.
Yes.
So right now, I kind of want to get started with by the time this is airing, I think special session will have already begun. But let's take a look back on the 89th and then talk about what we are expecting from special session going forward. So how did you feel with the 89th this year?
Well, the 89th did start out pretty rocky when it comes to who was chosen as speaker, because the majority of Texans wanted somebody chosen out of the Republican caucus, and that was going to be David Cook. And unfortunately, things went the way they did, and we had Dustin Burrows as speaker. So that started off the session kind of rocky, and then plus with the delay of getting things heard on the House, those were the things that made a lot of Texans feel a lot of angst. But what was fantastic is the amount of conservatives that came, 26 newly freshman conservatives that came, and then plus with the conservatives that were already there, they all teamed up as a unit, and they got a lot of conservative bills passed. And so, and that was what was pretty exciting, is to see that. Were there misses? Yes, there was. Like taxpayer-funded lobbying was not taken care of, and there was a really strong bill from Mays Middleton that was needed to be heard, and unfortunately 7 Republican senators gutted it and made it actually more codified for taxpayer-funded lobbying. But what we are very thankful for is Governor Abbott has put that on to the call for special session. So we are working with the SREC, who they are our board of directors for the Republican Party of Texas, and they have already put some things in place. We have got some things in place to make sure that Texans know, please help us get this over the finish line. And so, and the women's privacy spaces, that was another one that was Senator Mays Middleton's bill. I think it's SB 250. It may be renamed. But it was a really strong bill to just protect us in our spaces and stop the madness. And so that one did not get out of committee. And so that's another one that we are pushing to get done as well.
Well, let's start with the taxpayer-funded lobbying then, because I think that's something that a few years ago people hadn't even heard of it before, and now it's something that's being put on the special. Would you mind explaining that a little?
So taxpayer-funded lobbying is whenever you have lobbyists that are actually paid, like TASB, which is Texas Association of School Boards. The other one is TEC, Texas. Now I'm drawing a blank.
Wait, which
it's
one?
For tech. It's for county commission, commissioners, courts and stuff. And so those guys go and they lobby for things that they want at our expense. We pay them, taxpayers do, and then we pay for the things that we would not even want in legislation. And so a lot of the things, even when it comes to these inappropriate books that are put in school libraries, that is all done by a lobbyist. And so those are things that we are paying for unwillingly and unknowingly. And so what we need to do is if we could just make sure that you can have all the lobbyists that you want, but we, the taxpayers, should not have to pay for them. You know, you have lobbyists in everything that you've got, you know, for the automobile industry, for housing, all of those things have lobbyists, but they are dedicated by the company, and the company pays for those to go lobby on Capitol Hill or to go lobby in Austin. That should not be a taxpayer thing if you are requesting my tax dollars to be used on that. So that's what we want to end.
Right. So that's something that was added later to the call, right? It wasn't on, am I right? It wasn't on the initial call?
I think it was added
Okay.
on the initial call. That was one of the first.
Okay.
Now this last one is we're going to be talking about the things that they added on is about flood prevention and how to make sure we can learn from the lessons of Central Texas, which is mind-blowing.
Right. It was so interesting just I guess realizing how small of a world it is in Central Texas right after the tragedy had happened. I didn't know anyone personally, but it was it's interesting just how many people were just one person away removed from knowing
Yes.
the families that were affected and impacted by that.
It's tragic. And we have some people that actually are on SREC that they had a loved one that one of the little girls.
One thing I am, I guess, inspired by is some of the community reaction in the local area. Like P. Terry's did their decided to fund or give all of the revenue that they made on one of their days and all of their sales to
Oh
donated
yeah, I
it.
did
Yes.
hear about that. And then yesterday I was in Cyprus at a Republican club out there, Cyprus Republicans, and they had Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick speak, and he talked about it. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, but he talked about all the heroism of that kid. I think he was 26 years old. He decided to take his helicopter and go save as many girls as he could find. And he went and did that. And I think I can't remember what the number was, but he's not taking any credit. He is giving all glory to his team and, you know, and just the ability to go and get it done was just something that was mind-blowing. And the one thing that Lieutenant Governor Patrick said is, thank you so much for having me come out here and speak. Now, this was booked way in advance, but it was nice for him to get a break from all the tragic sadness that he was seeing in Central Texas to come to Cyprus and for us to hear a firsthand account of what went on. It's amazing how fast the water came up.
Yeah.
I just don't think any alarms would have done anything because they were talking about within 45 minutes, it was, 10 feet high and just swept everything out of the way. It's amazing what a powerful force water is. You just take it for granted, and then something like this happens, and it's just awful.
It's one of the weird parts about Texas, I guess, is we both have problems with droughts, and then when it rains, it really rains.
Yeah, we do have droughts, and then when I was in Hurricane Harvey, my husband and I had just moved to Houston, and so we got to witness Hurricane Harvey. And that was pretty amazing. And our son was in the Army, our oldest son, and he was over his troops, and he got to come to Houston and help with the Army. And he said, and my son, love him to death, but he's a pessimist sometimes. And he's like, I just couldn't believe the humanitarian efforts. It made me have so much belief in our country because there was people there with tamales and there was people there with sandwiches and everything, not to let the first responders go hungry. He said the Cajun Army was amazing. They lost track of how many people they saved. Like the first day, he said they saved about 26. Or 126. The next day, it was in the 200s, and he goes, I've lost count. And he said, but it was the building of a community that just inspired him about our country and especially about our state, because we live in the best state in the nation.
No, we definitely do. And yeah, I feel like, well, just any of these stories of heroism that are happening from modern Texas, like the heroism isn't something that's dead. It's not something that just happens in the past and
Right.
we read about. It's something that you're still able to engage with every single day.
It is.
But I going back to the special session stuff. So that's something that's also recently been added to the call. Are there any other things that you think that people are excited about that made it onto the list?
I think, I mean, for us, taxpayer-funded lobbying is our biggest one, and then of course, the governor putting in, the redistricting. I have to say that one's going to be very exciting. We'll see if the Democrats stay and don't try to disrupt a quorum. But we've got that, and then the THC is going to come back up for a vote, and then of course trying to figure out how we can do flooding better, how we can be more prepared. So I think it's going to be a busy special session, and it is going to be exciting to see what we can get done.
Yeah, and as we're talking about the flooding and all of the people who are choosing to respond and volunteer their time or whatever they can give to donate to people, I wouldn't be surprised if events like that are something that inspire people to get more involved in their communities, even just on the local level. But I want to hear a little bit about your story and how you ended up finding your way into the politisphere. I find it interesting, especially when people have like full-time careers and then they choose to have a very interesting and time-consuming hobby like the one that you've chosen for yourself because you're a realtor, right?
Right. And I wasn't at the time.
Okay.
And in fact, I think I had just made the decision. My husband and I had just made the decision for me to be a stay-at-home mom. And it's when Barack Obama hit the scene, and he was so cool. These people thought, but they weren't listening to his words. And when he said he was going to 5 days away from fundamentally changing America, nobody asked to what, and now our insurance rates are sky high and everything else. So when he first hit the scene, then the Tea Party started to come out and start looking at things on a fiscal level. And I was like, oh, and I started to get pay attention. And there was a woman at church that she was very involved. And so I said to her, wow, what's it like to be involved? And she goes, it's great. I'm working to get rid of our county chair right now. And I didn't even know what that was, And so I said, our county chair, well, he supports Democrats. He is a Democrat. Oh, I thought, scandal. and I took this newfound knowledge and I just kept it to myself. And then I went to my first Republican event, and it was Raging Elephants with Apostle Claver. And I went there, and somebody started talking about Fred Moses. Well, Fred Moses is the county chair. And I go, he's a Democrat. And everybody looked at me like, what did you just say? And they go, do you even know what you're talking about? And I go, no, I don't. And so I then went home, did all my research on him, and I was like, this guy is phenomenal. So I wrote everybody that went to the meeting and said, I apologize that I said those things about a person I didn't even know. And I hope you forgive me, and I can't wait to come to the next meeting. So then I also called Fred Moses, and I said, I just want you to know what I said, and I'm asking for your forgiveness. And he was like, who is this? And so, but by the end of the call, I said, listen, I've never done anything politically. If you want somebody to go walk doors for you, or I don't even know how to do that, or I can make phone calls, though. I can really make phone calls. And he said, okay, thank you. And so hung up, thought, I'll never hear from that guy again. So he calls the next morning and he says, D'rinda, this is Fred Moses. And my wife and I were praying about it last night, and we want you to be my campaign manager.
Whoa. It's a step up from knocking doors.
Yes, exactly. Or even learning how to knock on a door. So I was like, oh my gosh. I said, I told you I know nothing. And he goes, that's perfect. That's what we want. And so anyway, he said, I want you to pray about it, talk to your family about it, and let me know tomorrow. Okay. So get to the family dinner table, talk to all my boys, and my oldest goes, this is a compliment, Mom. And I go, I know, right? And so I talked to him the next day and I said, yeah, we're in. And so did that. He was the underdog and he ended up winning by 64% of the vote. He was an amazing leader and he became a father figure to me. And him and his wife were very important on my life. And but once I saw what it took to get good people in office, I was hooked. And so I have been involved in politics since then. And I was president of a club that I grew under my presidency to over 500 in memberships. And so, and it was because I was on fire about it. I love politics. I love seeing good people get in office. And I also love making politicians that forget their place, make them accountable. And so it is a lot of work. It is for people that are insane. No,
Just a little bit.
But your passion is for your country. And I've always been that way. I've always loved our state more than any other. I've never lived anywhere else, but I know this is the best state. And so,
Amen to that.
yeah. And so, and I wanted to make a difference. And so then I wanted, because a lot of women don't join clubs just to join them, get the photo ops. They want an action-oriented club. And that's what we were. And that's what I said to all my members. We are an action-oriented club. We are not about the photo ops. This is not social hour. This is a time to get active and to really make a difference to get good men and women in office. And so that's what we did. We were very influential in Collin County. And so, and then my husband was transferred to Houston, and then that's when that all came to be. But
Right. But even before it seems like you became political and got into the political stuff, it seems like even before that you had a family with conservative values and that was important to you. So where do you think that came from for you?
So actually, we didn't have conservative values. We voted Republican. My mother was a bit of a mess. I love her to death, but she became pregnant with me. She had had an affair with a married man, and I was the result of that. I did not know that because I was adopted by her husband when I was 2 years old. And so everybody in my family looked like you. They had brown hair, brown eyes. I did not. I couldn't go to the mailbox and get a tan. I burned severely, whereas everybody else did very well. And so I said to my mom, why am I the only redhead in this family? And she goes, oh, well, we prayed for a redhead and God gave us a redhead.
Wait, how old were you when you first started asking the questions?
I was in the 3rd grade because I remember because we were learning about how genes work and how brown eyes are more predominant than blue.
Right.
So I knew that was hogwash. And so then it was when I was 12 years old that the guy that adopted me, his mother said to me, I loved you like you were my own granddaughter, but you really aren't. And I said, what? And she said, oh yeah, my son adopted you as his daughter. He's not really your father. And I was like, okay. So I went home, said to my mom, guess what Grandma told me? And she goes, we didn't tell you? I could have sworn we told you. So yeah.
Okay.
That's my
mother.
That's
the way to go about the conversation.
That's why my name is D'rinda with an apostrophe. The woman was a wild one. Anyway, so then I fast forward, I met my biological father, and fantastic guy. And lo and behold, red hair and could not get a tan. And so but I looked just like him, and he flew me out to California. So he decided I've got to go back to Pennsylvania and tell my mother and my 2 sisters about what has transpired. So he went to Pennsylvania and he told them, I've got a daughter in Texas. She's 18 years old, and this is what's going on. Well, my very liberal aunt said, I'm going to go to Texas and I'm going to meet her. And so then she comes and tells me that he then said to her, once you meet her, you'll understand why I no longer believe in abortion. And up until that moment, I was pro-choice, but after hearing that, she and I just sat and stared at each other. And I thought, if I was meant to be here, so was 58 million other little ones. And I'm no better than anybody else. And my mother was not God to determine if I was valuable. She was the one that she could have said no, but she didn't. That was her choice. I was a human being. And so that was my journey to say, I can't believe I ever thought this was okay. And that's why I am so adamant about pro-life, because the thing is if you don't value human life, what can you value? If you can't value an unprotected soul, then you don't have value for really any other soul. For the most vulnerable of us, if you think of them as if you have to dehumanize them in order to justify killing them, then that's not something that you and I will ever be on the same page. Because, even with all of the horrible things that have been said about Central Texas and being Trumpers, a lot of people talk about how horrible that is, the people that are saying that. But the thing is when you dehumanize life to the point where you are okay with the fact that Trump was nearly assassinated, if you're okay with that and you've dehumanized life to that point, then of course babies don't mean anything.
Right. I guess my journey through the conservative movement also came from the pro-life sphere.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have a personal testimony about it, but I do remember, I don't know how it had come up, but it was like in 3rd grade, and a girl was talking about, I'm guessing she was just like mimicking what her parents said about something having to do with they're trying to take away women's rights and abortion. And I'm like in 3rd grade. So I asked my parents whenever I got home, like, oh, what's abortion? And both of them looked stunned, like, I'm not sure if we're ready to have this conversation with an 8-year-old. But they were just like, well, sometimes people who don't want to have their baby, and they explained like what happens. But again, I'm hearing this, I'm 8 years old, and I just can't believe that that's even something that people could fathom, is getting rid of a child.
Yeah.
But since then, I think because I had, thankfully, parents who were both like staunchly pro-life, and later and this is actually one thing that I really do appreciate about the Catholic Church, is one of the things that they've continued to do is be leaders and consistent on the pro-life movement. And so with different church groups being able to go volunteer at pregnancy resource centers and other stuff growing up, I just feel very thankful that the messaging that I got first and the information that I got first was true about life. And it's, I feel like the rest of my my philosophy, my political philosophy comes from that root of life is valuable.
It does.
And it's important, and people deserve to be treated with respect.
Right.
Because when you have that right, you can build everything else on top of that.
Well, and I remember one, this is a short one too. Senator Angela Paxson, she's adopted. And she asked her birth mom one time, how come you didn't abort me? And she goes, Angela, even back then we knew it was a human baby. And I was like, that's just the simple fact of it, is that it is a human baby. And the fact that we have allowed the society to dehumanize a baby to the point where you say it's a clump of cells and people actually believe that, that's where it's such a slippery slope that you can value anything if you can't even value that. And my husband and I, we adopted our middle son, and he is the most amazing thing on the planet. And actually my granddaughter is, but but he gave us an amazing granddaughter, and our life is so much better because he's in it, So
was the fact that you were adopted by I guess your adopted father, did that influence your decision to want to adopt?
Well, No, actually, my brother, my half brother, he died of a drug overdose. And so he had a son that when he got custody of him, he was 4 years old and he was 25 pounds. And the woman had to have 5 children. And she was drying up from a drug overdose in jail. And she said, "Oh no, my kids are home alone." And they had been home alone for 3 days. And CPS came in and got them. So that's when I first met him, was at that time. And then when I met him, I felt this strong force that I was going to be his mother. And so then when my brother did pass away, he was 7 years old and he weighed 45 pounds. And they told me he will always be a stutterer. He will never be able to speak right. He will always be a tiny, tiny child because of how badly he was malnutritioned. And I was like, okay. Well, now today he's 6'4", 6'4.5", and he has a communications degree from Texas State University. So he's an amazing fighter, and just blessed that he's in my life. And we got the blessing of getting to raise him.
That's beautiful. And then now you have your first grandbaby.
Her name is Violet, and she is naturally curly hair, brown eyes, and she is the most amazing human I've ever met.
Do you enjoy being a grandmother?
That is like even better. I mean, being a mom was a great gig, and I absolutely love it to this day. But being a grandparent is so much better. Richard and Marley, it's so much better.
Oh. You know, so my parents are still in the Rio Grande Valley, and then my husband and I are up here. And my mom, well, we're really wanting to start a family soon. And my mom, she's like, "I'm not ready to be a grandmother yet."
She is.
But her thing is she's like, because we live so far away, she's just sad that she won't be able to see as much. But
that part is hard. That part is hard, but she'll find a way, because it is the most divine gift that God gives you, is to be a grandparent. I had no idea that I would fall apart when I saw her for the first time. And I'll get teary-eyed. She was the most, and that's what's going to happen to your mother. Your mother is going to find a way. And you'll want her up here for the first 2 to 3 weeks anyway.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work, but she'll find a way.
Yeah. And just to share another,
and I'll be her realtor.
I keep telling them, I'm like, well, I need a little bit of a buffer, but Bastrop seems great. So
I need a little bit of a buffer.
It's okay. They feel the same way.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, you were saying that you're like, what, 2 hours away from your grandbaby right now?
Yeah. I'm 2 hours away from them right now. And when she saw in Houston that I had the for sale sign up on the house, she was like, "Oh, Nani, are you going to move to Austin?" And I go, "Oh, never. That will never happen. I want to stay in Texas."
Oh no. I mean, part of me wants to argue, but also, and I mean, I don't even live in the city anymore. So yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But just to share, I think some of the, seeing from an outside perspective for the first time, understanding how much my mom really enjoyed being a mom. I remember a few years ago, I was in college. So my sister's only 4 years younger than me. And I think she was later high school at this point. It'd been a while since my mom had like kids, right? It's just us two. But she, on one of the trips to Austin, she invited my cousins, and they're like 10 and 14 years younger than me, respectively. And seeing her just excited to like, get to like watch them and like laugh at them just being kids again. It was the first time that I had seen my mom like as like studying her almost from the like an outside perspective and getting to see that. And that was just such, I don't know, beautiful, joyful thing to watch.
It is.
But you had mentioned that at one point you and your husband decided that you like tried to make the decision to be a stay-at-home mom. I feel like there's a lot of people who are still scared to be willing to step away at some point, or they see their career as something that you have to build up and hold on to, or it'll fall apart. Do you have any I guess insight or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do actually. So I was working at a company that I absolutely loved, and there was a game plan for me to get into sales there, and And I was excited about it. But my son, my youngest son, kept getting sick. And it just was, it was to the point where my husband and I said, they have me in this role for a reason. What if we try stay-at-home mom, see how it goes? And so we did, and I did it for 3 years. And it was so funny because I was always out going and doing things. I also started a nonprofit called Living for Zachary, and it was about sudden cardiac arrest. Forrest, our middle son, the one I've been talking about, he had a friend that the brother died of a heart attack, basically, on the football field. And so I went home and I just researched, and I took about 8 friends to the funeral, and I had all the girls tell me, what did you love about Sarah's brother? And they would tell me stories, and he was so funny. He was going to go to Harvard. He wanted to be a doctor. But he was also just a cut up and a half. And so they all loved him. So I got home, started looking up sudden cardiac arrest because I wanted to know more about it. Well, it turns out it can only be prevented if you know about it. It is not hereditary. It is not something that you have a warning sign about. And so insurance is not likely to give you an echocardiogram. An echocardiogram is the only thing that is able to detect it. And it's a 99% accuracy is an echocardiogram. You can do an EKG, but it won't maybe catch it. So anyway, so it's $1,000, and insurance companies at that time were like, no, we're not going to do that unless there's family history and all that. So I got very involved while I was a stay-at-home mom into putting this together, and I went and talked to the mother of Zachary, and we put together the Living for Zachary, and they provide echocardiograms, and I put together the relationship with the Baylor Heart Hospital of Plano, and the last I had seen, they've saved 26 lives, and it's one of the number one killers of student athletes, because while they're going through puberty, their heart is still growing. And then when you put exerted pressure on that, it's just a time bomb. So anyway, so that's so when I was a stay-at-home mom, I had that, and then that allowed me to have the little touch of business and also raise my son. So I was not the best at being a stay-at-home mom. And because of the fact that I always wanted to be doing something for others other than my own family. And that sounds very selfish and awful, but I was able to do that. And then, but we went running every day. We went to the park every day. I read to him every day, and it's the most precious time that you get with them. And then I was PTA president even when I worked 3 different times, and booster president. And when you're in the throes of it, when they're little, you think, gosh, this is taking forever. But it's the thing, now that we've moved, I go through all these books and these boxes of things, and seeing the sweet things that boys writing things about their mothers is a big deal. And reading some of the things that they've been able to say because I invested that time and because I absolutely loved every second of it. That's something that I would highly recommend to anyone. And especially when you see your mother doing what she's doing with having a touch of time with the 14 and 12-year-old. When it comes to you having a child, it's her second chance to have you, to raise a portion of you, to help be there. And it's such an incredible force.
One of the things I love about having moms on the show is getting to ask them about how the balance and stuff works. It's this we're living in this weird time where you have the left just really devaluing family and not prioritizing it at all. And I think women are now kind of waking up to like the lies that they've been sold. But then on the right, you have almost this weird idea of they're saying return to tradition, but I keep questioning like, okay, which tradition is that? Because if it was just in the 50s and 60s, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's such a short amount of time for that tradition you're talking about. But instead, one of the things I'm really loving seeing is this women, I guess, expressing that there was a need for more balance in their life or flexibility to be able to raise their children, but still maintain parts of work or doing other things as well.
Yeah.
Right.
If you have like politics, being passionate about making a difference and, doing sudden cardiac arrest research and then putting together a foundation, that kind of stuff is fantastic. But when it comes to your kids and having that little dose of doing other things, that's fine. But you will never regret having a kid, and you will never achieve balance. Never. And that is such a lie. You are always going to feel like you're drowning at times, but if you look back at it and you look at, I envy you because you're just starting it, and you are going to feel like you're drowning sometimes, and you are going to feel like I don't have enough time for myself. You're investing in a human, and that is yourself. That is what you've been able to do, is invest and make an incredible human being that is going to do so much good in the world. And you've been able to teach him about Christ and how to be a better person, how to be a man, how to love somebody. Those are things that you're going to get to do. And that's the most amazing job that you can ever have. You will never have balance. Don't even think that you will. There's only two things that you should say are uncompromisable: is reading your Bible every day and then getting some kind of exercise, which when you have a little one, you will get exercise. There's no doubt about that. But if I could have had more children, I totally would have. But my husband is such a stickler. But I do have, I've also turned passion in with dogs. I'm in love with dogs. And then of course politics.
But I really appreciate your honesty about motherhood, because I feel like the online influencer thing tries to depict this perfect lifestyle where everything you have time for, to all of it, and you can go down your checklist and make sure everything's done. But do you think that having a child then just makes you more resilient? Like you'll encounter more difficulties. There'll be more stuff to try to wrangle and manage.
It's so funny that you say that. Yes, because you can't sweat the small stuff because everything is major when you become a mom. And so, like my oldest son, who's military and he's very regimented, right? So he took my middle son Forrest and I and Violet out to have ice cream. Well, Violet decided to eat the bottom of the cone, of course, because that's amazing. So she does that. Well, and it's hot outside. The ice cream starts going down here. It gets in her long, beautiful, curly hair. It got all over her face because she's trying to make sure that not too much drips out. My oldest just came apart. He was like, I can't watch this anymore. I can't do it. And I just thought, you have no idea. And they're going to start trying to at some point. But it's so funny to see who he's going to be when it happens, when he becomes a father, because and his wife is just like it. So funny. She even said something that was so hysterical. She goes, he sent pictures of her to his wife, and she said, she's so feral, which I thought that was the perfect word. But kids are feral, and they're just this ball of energy of crazy that you have no control of. So that's the hard part for whenever you've decided to have children older, is that control that you have of yourself. You no longer will have it. But it's a crazy, chaotic journey that you get to watch every day be a crazy, chaotic journey, and you have no control over that. You've got to somehow find a time to read your Bible, and maybe it's during sleep when you really want to sleep, but you go ahead and do that. But because being rooted with Christ at all times is something that you have to You have to find that center. That's the center. The thing that I don't like about, I need my me time. Your me time is that you get to be with this human that you decided that this is what you wanted to do. And that only is with you for 18 years. And then my oldest son said something very cold and harsh the other day. I've almost been alive longer than what you had with me, the time you had with me.
Wow.
That was the rudest thing ever. But it's such a short time of your life, that you get to be a mom. And so, so you just, in there, it's not always easy. There's a lot of hard times, and adoption is hard, but you just hold on for dear life and through the chaos, and then it gets easier, and then it gets easier. And then the next season that they go in, you get to just watch them become these incredible humans. My sons are a blast to be with. All three of them are the most amazing humans. And, there was some hard times, but it was, most of all, it was just the most rewarding now because they're fun to be around. And the lives that those guys have built, I got to be a part of molding some part of that,
You moved to the next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were saying you keep bringing up the importance of reading scripture daily. Is that what helps keep you grounded, and how does that affect you?
Yeah, it's so amazing that, you read the Bible and you're like, some people go, well, I go to church. I don't necessarily read the Bible. Well, the Bible is such a beautiful thing that God gives us to center us. And it shows us how much he loved us, that he gave us the Bible, that he breathed the word for all of us. And so every time that I read it, when the chaos of politics and who's done what, and this Republican's being ousted out, and everybody's just hating life at some point against Republicans or against Democrats, and it's all so chaotic. You read, and then even if you just do Proverbs, he knows what we're all going through. And it gives you a sense of peace that you're like, you knew I would be going through this. And you wrote it for me. And it's the most loving thing, because it just centers you back to who's really in charge, because you're not, and you are not God. And he makes, it's you're very aware after you've read the Bible, and when you're trying to get spaghetti out of your floor,
Yeah,
you're not.
There's always peace to find, I think, in meditating on the, I guess, grandeur and how big God is, and how that it's okay that I'm small in comparison, because there's safety within that.
Yes, there is. There's a lot.
So what would you say to younger women who are interested in getting a little bit more informed about what's happening, or they, like you a few years ago, didn't know about the local processes? What are ways that women can start making little steps to get more involved in their communities?
Well, Colonel Allen West said to me 20 years ago that the most important elections are school board races. And so to me, that's the biggest thing that you should really pay attention to, because locally, the thing about national politics is that all of us have in common the President of the United States. We all have in common who the Vice President is. Then you start to dissect it to where it's about Texas. We all have Senator Cruz and John Cornyn. We have that in common. Then you start to get to a smaller silo to where there's not the national media on your small town. There's not it on your school board. But that is where 60% of your tax dollars go. And people don't pay attention to what these people are doing. And then they wake up to going, wait a minute. My taxes are way out of control. How did this happen? Well, it happened because you didn't pay attention. You weren't watching when they knew you were watching something else, the national, and not paying attention to what's going on locally. So if you want to have a strong state, you've got to start with your community first. Because the whole thing with Trump coming out and saying there's only two genders, our president of the United States should not have to say those things. That should have been done locally. When this crazy started coming out, we should have been marching in the streets in our school boards, in our city councils, and saying, what are you doing? Why are you letting boys be in girls' dressing rooms? Why are you letting boys compete against girls? Why are you giving up on women like this, selling them out like this in our local communities? Because if it would have stopped in our local communities, our state legislators would not have had to mess with it, and certainly not our president. But that's where I think women we are really passionate humans that God put on this planet. And if you have a passion for politics, God put that there for a reason. He wants you to get involved. He wants you to be a part of the process. If you have all this passion, you're like, I just don't have the time. I can't do it. Well, He gave you that passion for a reason. It's not there by accident. So get to know who your local people are. Start paying attention online. You can watch their votes online, and you can see what they're talking about online. You don't have to go to a city council member. They're all online now. And so you can start paying attention to who those folks are and start putting your own resume together. If you say, oh, I've made a mess of my life, there's no way that I could ever run. The thing is people understand human things happen, and we want people that have made mistakes because then they've learned from them as well. And so those are the best teachers and those are the best leaders, the ones that have learned mistakes. So we in the Republican Party would love to see more young women. I mean, you've seen in the Texas legislature how many young ladies we've had that have ran for office that they didn't get involved until just recently. And some of them have been involved in Republican clubs, but they decided to run for Texas State House. And we've got some incredible women. We have Hillary Hicklin. We have Katrina Pearson, Shelley Luther. We have all these young women that have gotten in. Of course, Shelley Luther is going to be excited that I put her in the same age bracket as. Sorry. But I just think you may think that you're not qualified or you don't have what it takes. And I'm telling you, you do. And just start paying attention. Get familiar with your own local government. Get familiar with the budget and start really diving in and think about and pray about and talk to your husband if you're married about if this is a direction that you should go, because chances are it is. And if you find a Republican club out wherever you are, and I can help you, contact me, the vice chair. I would love to help you get involved because we need more young women getting involved because they have the passion, they have the drive, but it's also the older women are also the ones that are going to block walk for you because they have time for that and they have the passion as well. And it's a great family of people that are passionate about their country that are in the Republican Party, and they want to see anybody succeed that wants our state to succeed, and they'll walk through fire for you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing both your story, giving people a direction to be able to move forward, hopefully get more involved in their communities. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for leaving Texas to come into Austin all this way.
Well, and I thank you. The other thing that I do want to tell you about, because I think I want to have you on it, I do the Grassroots Club, and it's a section of the RPT that I have a call every Tuesday right now is what we're doing, and I'm going to have Congressman Brandon Gill on next Tuesday. And what we talk about is how to get involved, how to do things. And we go over a little bit of their history, but it's a great way to get involved. We also have a monthly newsletter, and we're going to start touring the state for it as well. So anyway, so I just thank you for letting me get that plug
Yeah, of
in for
course.
grassroots. And you go to texasgop.org to find it.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for being here.
You.
For everyone else, thank you for joining us. This has been the Sweet Tea Series.